Christian parenting.
Quit it! Stop that! What's wrong with you, kid? Today we're going to talk about discipline that shapes the heart. You don't want to miss it.
Hi, my name is Rienow. Welcome to Family Vision with my parents, Dr. Rob and Amy Rienow, strengthening families through practical, encouraging, and real conversations.
Hello, Rob Rienow here with Visionary Family Ministries. Welcome back to Family Vision. Thanks for taking this time to have these important conversations about our faith and our family relationships. Well, today we're going to talk about the number one thing that parents say frustrates them. If you survey parents, what's your biggest problem in your home? The number one thing that comes back from those surveys is discipline. We've got discipline issues. We've got bad behavior. Things are out of control. So what we're going to do is we're going to unpack some biblical principles of discipline. Christian discipline, biblical discipline, totally different than worldly discipline, or the way the world says that we should deal with bad behavior in our kids. Now, the Christian vision for discipline or dealing with bad behavior in the kids is totally different than the world's system of discipline or responding to bad behavior. And think about this word with me, discipline. What is the root word of the word discipline? Well, it's a disciple. You see, a discipline is a process by which a person becomes a disciple. So let's say you're teaching your children, you send them to karate class. They're learning the disciplines of karate. Well, they learn the disciplines of karate to become an expert or a follower of karate. Disciplines are a pathway. They're not the end goal. They're a process for helping a person become a disciple. So from a Christian standpoint, then, what's the purpose of discipline? The purpose of discipline is helping our children become disciples, helping them become followers of Jesus. Listen to a couple of these scriptures. Proverbs 6:23 says, this is Solomon writing to his son. He says, "For these commands are a lamp, and this teaching is a light, and the corrections of discipline are the way to life." Now look, I read this scripture and it sounds like a little bit of overstatement, okay? Solomon says to his son, the corrections of discipline are the way to life. It sounds like what he's saying is, hey, if you behave properly, then that's the way to life. Do good things, don't do bad things, that's the way to life. Well, we know that's not what the Bible teaches, and that's not what this scripture is all about either. It's not good behavior is the way to life. It's becoming a disciple, becoming a follower of God. That is the way to life. Here's another one, Proverbs 19:18. It says, "Discipline your son, for in that there is hope. Do not be a willing party to his death." Again, super strong phrase. Discipline your son, for in that there is hope. Do not be a willing party to his death. So, Rob, are you saying that if I fail to teach my child to behave well, that I'm a willing party to their death? No, that's not what the Bible teaches. Discipline is not about fixing bad behavior. Discipline is about shaping our children's hearts. It's about helping them become followers of Jesus. And once we understand the word properly, now we understand this scripture properly. So it's not fix your child's bad behavior, for in that there is hope. It's help your child become a disciple. Help your child become a follower of Jesus, for in that there is hope. And then there is a pretty stern warning here. If we're not doing that, if we're not doing all in our power to shape the hearts of our kids, to help our children follow Jesus, then in fact, we are a willing party to their death. So a number of years ago, Amy and I just made a decision. We just had a husband-wife staff meeting. We just made a decision. We said, you know what, we don't have any more discipline problems in our house. We're just done with discipline problems, so we're going to agree right now we just don't have any more. What we now have are discipleship situations. No more discipline problems, but discipleship situations. And it's interesting, even changing that term affected how I handled issues. So I get a phone call. Amy says, we got a discipline problem here. I don't know anything, right, of what's happened. I know none of the details, but I'm already ramped up. I'm already upset. Oh, you tell me what's going on. So help me. What's happening there? Okay. And I'm already prepared to parent badly because I'm already ramped up and I'm already going 0 to 60. But if Amy calls me and says, Rob, I've got a discipleship situation here, my 0 to 60 does not kick in as fast. Sometimes it does because now I know the code that discipleship situation means discipline problem, but that's beside the point. But it's a mindset for me as a parent that I don't have an opportunity this situation is not a fixed behavior, hey kid, quit it. This is a shepherding opportunity. This is a discipleship opportunity. And then that leads into this second principle that the ultimate goal of our discipline, or I'm going to change the terms now, the ultimate goal of our discipleship is the impressing of the heart. And this is the understanding that everything our kids do is made up of two components, their actions and their heart, their behavior and their attitude, the fruit and the root, the outside and the inside. Or think of it this way, the what and the why. Everything your kids do is made up of those two components. What did they do and why did they do it? Now you see, worldly discipline only cares about the outward behavior. So you ask your 13-year-old son to go clean his room. He says, fine, I'll go clean my room, my stupid room. You hear him go upstairs, you hear ga-bang, crash, and he's cleaning his room, and I'm going to make my bed. That's ridiculous. I just have to sleep in it again tonight. Why bother making it? I don't know if you ever heard a child go with that line of thinking, but it makes a lot of sense to me. Honestly, I've never really had a good comeback for why the bed should be made, even though we're sleeping in again tonight. Amy has a different view that the bed should be made. I see producer Todd giving me the thumbs up in there. Maybe it's a guy thing, girl thing. I don't know. All right, tangenting. So we have this young man. You tell him go clean his room. He mumbles and grumbles and complains and goes and cleans the room. Did he obey you? Well, yeah, he obeyed you. He cleaned his room. Did he honor you with his heart? Well, no. He mumbled and grumbled and complained all the way. Now, you see, the world says that what happened right there with that 13-year-old boy is totally fine. Look, do as you're told. You can mumble and grumble and complain all you want as long as you do what you're told. From a Christian perspective, that's just crazy. To say all I care about is my child doing what they're supposed to do, I don't care about their heart. If that's our mindset as parents, we're actually training little Pharisees. We're training little rule followers to say, look, doing the right thing, not doing the wrong thing, that's what counts. Your heart doesn't matter. So for Christian discipleship, we completely reject that mindset. And you say, whenever we're parenting our kids through difficult behavior, we've got what did they do and why did they do it? We've got the fruit and the root. We've got the choice and the heart. I want to give you a negative example of this in the Bible. I'm glad that God put so much terrible parenting in the Bible, because it just makes us feel better about where we're at. So the passage I want to show you is found in 1 Kings chapter 1 and verse 5. The situation is that David is about to die, and he has appointed Solomon to succeed him as king. But his son Adonijah is upset about this, and he wants to be king. And he wants to force himself onto the throne. So we read this in 1 Kings chapter 1, verse 5. It says, now Adonijah, whose mother was Haggith, and that's an unfortunate girl name, not a lot of girls named Haggith today, put himself forward and said, I will be king. So he got chariots and horses ready with 50 men to run ahead of him. So Adonijah is preparing to use military force to rebel against his father's will, which was to have Solomon succeed him. And one of the very interesting things about the history that God gives us in the Bible is the history in the Bible is different than an encyclopedia, because there's times that God tells us things that an encyclopedia could never tell us. Sometimes God tells us the things that people were thinking, the things that were in people's hearts. An encyclopedia just tells you, who, what, when, where, why, all that stuff. But sometimes God gives us insights or explanations into people's behavior. And that's exactly what we have in this text. 1 Kings 1:5. Adonijah's military rebellion against his dad. Verse 6 explains, how could Adonijah be so wicked? How could Adonijah be so rebellious? Verse 6 says this as an explanation for Adonijah's behavior. His father had never interfered with him by asking, why do you behave as you do? So if you study the whole of this account, we find out that David, for all of the areas of his life that was righteous and godly, that he was not an effective father for Adonijah. And we find failure in discipline, failure in discipleship at both the what level and the why level. First of all, it says David failed to interfere with his son. In other words, he failed to insert himself in his son's behavior. He failed to redirect him. Obviously, there must have been times that Adonijah is growing up, he's making poor choices, and David simply is not engaging in that. So he failed to get involved with the what of Adonijah's life. Well, it only follows then that he failed to get involved with the why, that he failed to get involved with the heart decisions and the heart issues in his son's life. There's a great discipleship principle here in this question. His father never interfered with him by asking, why do you behave as you do? Friends, this is such a critical question to continue be asking our kids after they misbehave, which is, hey, why did you do that? What was in your heart when you made that choice or said those words? Now, you've probably done this before, all right? Your 8-year-old boy punches his 6-year-old brother in the chops, and you're getting involved, and you're saying, why did you do that? Why did you punch him? And you know what 8-year-olds will typically say, I don't know. And it's interesting, when my kids were younger, or we were dealing with this with toddlers or younger kids, and I'd ask a child, or even a teenager, I ask a child, hey, why did you do that? And they say, I don't know. My instinct was that, well, they just didn't want to fess up. They just didn't want to talk. They just didn't want to open their heart up and have a heart-based conversation with me. Now I tend to think that when a child says that they don't know why they did something, they're probably telling the truth. They probably don't know their own motives for what just happened. And I think that because of how rare a thing it is for even an adult to have the level of maturity to discern the motives for their bad behavior and to be able to express those motives to somebody else. Okay? So let's just say a guy at work loses his cool at a staff meeting, and you can tell he's all bristly and upset, and he storms out after the meeting's over. And then next week at the staff meeting, he says, hey, everybody, I just need to apologize to you. I kind of blew my stack last week, and the reason is I was hoping to get the promotion, but John over here got the promotion, and I was really bitter, angry, and jealous, and that jealousy kind of came out, and I just want to apologize to everybody. Nobody talks like that. Nobody blames their bad behavior on issues in their own heart. And you see this when celebrities get caught in bad behavior and they have to do their mea culpa on television, okay? They always say, well, that's not who I am. I'm like, well, actually, I think it is who you are because you did that. And you remember what Jesus says. I mean, how many of us have had this situation where maybe you're in an argument with somebody, it's usually a family member, but it could be a friend or coworker, and you're about to say something that you know you shouldn't say. Maybe it's just got some extra heat or extra attack or extra bitterness, and you can feel the words coming up out of your mouth. And you're like, I shouldn't say this. I shouldn't say this. You're like, no. And the words are coming out. And then after you said it, you're like, I can't believe I said that. Why did I say that? Well, the answer is to, why did you say it? Jesus says it's out of the overflow of the heart that the mouth speaks. So the reason why we say some of the really nasty things we shouldn't have said and we regret saying is that sentiment was in our heart. And it was out of the overflow of our heart that our mouth spoke. Now, most of the time, when we have a discipleship situation or a discipline problem, we have both incorrect action and incorrect attitude. In other words, the kid did something wrong with a stinky heart, right? But sometimes we have the right action with the wrong attitude. Right action, wrong attitude. One example of this is, hey, you need to say you're sorry. And you've all done this before. Kid says, sorry. Now, you said to the child, say sorry, and they obeyed. The syllables sorry came out of the mouth. But you could tell in their heart they were bitter and angry and anything but sorry. So that's an example where you have the right behavior with the wrong heart. John Thompson calls this passive rebellion. There's outward compliance or obedience, but inward resentment, hostility, and disobedience in the heart. And I want to encourage you so strongly, don't let passive rebellion situations pass you by. Because if discipline or discipleship is ultimately about the heart, and we fail to address problems of the heart when we see them, we are training little Pharisees. Let me give you an example. Say you ask your 12-year-old daughter to clear the dishes, and she starts clearing the dishes. You say, why do I always have to do all the work in this family? It's Cinderella, Cinderella, Cinderella. All I do around here is work. And she's going back and forth, clearing the dishes and mumbling and grumbling and complaining. So is she being obedient? Yeah, she's being obedient. You asked her to clear the dishes, but obviously something's wrong. Now, my instinct in that situation is almost always wrong. And what my instinct is to, hey, little lady, when we do our chores in this family, we do them with a good attitude. So snap out of it and fix your attitude. I love that phrase. When we do this in this family, we do it this way. Amy was in the grocery store. This was a few years ago with Rush. Rush is 7 now, and he was probably 2. He was in the grocery store with Lissy. And Rush was walking down the grocery aisle, systematically knocking products off the shelf onto the floor. And Amy stops him, of course, and says, Rush, we don't do that. No, we don't. And Lissy said, well, apparently we do. Just a great line, right? We don't do that. That you're doing it right now. You are. Okay, back to my thing. So the girl is clearing the dishes, but she's mumbling and grumbling. My instinct is to say, hey, fix your attitude, young lady. Okay, bad parenting. What I want to ask God to help me do in that situation is to say, hey, honey, time out. Thank you for being obedient. Thank you for clearing the dishes. You're not in trouble. Let's go into another room and talk about this. And you go into another room and say, obviously, you're upset about something. Can you give me your heart? Can you tell me what's going on? Because obviously you're upset. Well, yeah, I'll talk to you. My 8-year-old sister, when I was 8, I had like a chore list and I did all these chores. Well, she has a chore list, but you know who does her chores? I do her chores. I do all the work around here and she does nothing. So, does this girl have a problem with being asked to do the dishes? No, she doesn't. She doesn't have a problem with chores. Whatever's going on in her heart is some kind of sibling issue, sibling rivalry issue, sibling justice issue. And if I had just said, hey, young lady, when we do our chores in this family, we do them with a good attitude, so snap out of it, I would have completely missed the discipleship situation that was presenting me. So just always thinking, I've got 2 things to deal with, the what and the why, the choice and the heart, the action and the attitude. Now, this whole subject of discipline that shapes the heart is a big part of Amy's and my book, Visionary Parenting, as well as our video Bible study, the 8-part video Bible study that you can do yourself or you can do with a group at church, also called Visionary Parenting. Those are available on our website, visionaryfam.com. Would love to get those resources into your hands so that you can really develop a game plan for how to respond biblically to bad behavior, whether that bad behavior is in your kids or in you. And I'm actually going to pick this conversation up with a part 2, and we're going to talk about some very practical examples of discipline that shapes the heart in our next episode of Family Vision.